This man was collecting scrap metal in a junkyard, hoping to earn some money for drinks tomorrow. He was lucky enough to find a stuck bicycle and tried to pull it out, but it felt like someone was pulling it back. The man lost his balance and tumbled into a puddle of water in a movie-like fashion. The filthy puddle was disgusting. It turned out to be a sewage drain from a chemical plant. Suddenly, the man discovered a layer of scales growing on his hand. He tried to jump up and touch his ear, but his ear had already fallen off. His whole body gradually rotted from the inside and he rolled into the puddle and died. The next day, an old man came to the counseling center to report that his drinking buddy had gone missing. Because this old man was often drunk, no one believed the police. The counselor didn't believe it either. He advised the old man to wait a few more days. But the old man insisted that something had happened to Cot. Normally, Cot would call every morning to demand payment. But this morning, he didn't call, and Cot didn't answer either. The counselor gave up trying to talk to him and called a young employee named Yuen to come and see the old man. This guy is as handsome as a prostitute. Never mind, as long as he's handsome. Having just finished sculpting an old man, Yuen encountered the guy with the nightmare glasses. He got this nickname because he has absurd nightmares every day. He told me about a mutated carp, almost as tall as an adult. Yuen was too bored to say anything. This wasn't the first time this clueless guy had come to the center. Last time he said he saw zombies. Before that it was an alien with bulging eyes. Yuen Trong even went to the junkyard to check, but didn't see anything, so now he just mumbles to get it over with. The clueless guy got angry and threatened to sue the department head.
Un trognacted naïve again.
This center has as many as 15 department heads. Who are you referring to? The clueless fool gave up, then went inside to make a piece of cake. Unexpectedly, the old man was still waiting for him. The old man said that this town is not normal. Recently, many people have gone missing. Just like 20 years ago, many children and adults have disappeared. Yuen's expression changed instantly. It seemed he also had some memory of that incident. After the old man returned home, a woman led a group of men in black to hand out flyers. The old man chased them away as soon as he saw them. Perhaps this wasn't the first time, because suddenly the objects next to the old man flew up into the air and were crushed flat. It turned out that someone in the group of men in black knew superpowers. The old man was terrified, his face turning pale. The woman still smiled. So, do you believe it now? She's trying to recruit more people to expand her evil church. On the other hand, this girl is fighting over ice cream with children on the street simply because she's a rebellious girl. Others are spreading propaganda about the end of the world, but she wants the end of the world to come quickly, still simply because she's a rebellious girl. Grandma gave her a name that was perfectly suited to life. Chan, if you want to go, go ahead. Even the church had to give up their seats for her, and people on the street only dared to stand and watch. Before, Chan was a well-behaved girl, peeling onions to earn a living. But when she discovered she had heart disease, Chan no longer wanted to live. She was resentful and wanted revenge on life, so she went around causing trouble everywhere. A dying person wants to accumulate merit to go to heaven, but Chan wants to accumulate karma to go to hell. She wants to clash with even the devil. Chaney's strong personality quickly caught Yuen's attention, because she looked very much like a childhood friend of Yuen's. He was searching everywhere for that friend. Then Chan went home to ask her grandmother for money. She wants to travel everywhere before she dies. Her grandmother, nicknamed Generous, often uses charity money, but when her granddaughter asks, she doesn't give a single penny. Because she wants Chan to earn money with her own abilities. Go peel onions. Chan went, feeling extremely resentful. But her grandmother didn't care. Chan had to slaughter a pig instead. With this meager amount of money, the dream of seeing the Aurora Borealis seems impossible. Chan had to find a place nearby. She had to travel at least once in her life, even if it meant death. Then she carried her heavy suitcase outside. By chance, she met a clueless colleague, and Chandy immediately asked to borrow money. But he didn't have any money. He had spent it all on repairing the roof. Chan went to ask why he was staying in a rented room. It turned out the landlord had promised to fix the leaky roof again and again. But the clueless guy had already changed the bedsheet 10 times, and the house was still leaking. Chan went to a trip at any cost. The clueless guy asked her where she got the money. Chan immediately put on a dangerous face and said she was about to have 50 million. Then Chan went to the convenience store to buy things. She disguised herself stealthily like a thief. The things she bought were also unusual: gloves, tape, rope, and even knives and scissors, like the tools of those who are destitute. Moreover, her face looked dangerous. Accidentally, someone bumped into her blanket, causing the pile of goods she bought to fall to the ground. Yuan's items that fell out were also unusual. The two of them stared at each other nervously, carefully picking up their belongings. Then Chan went to the checkout counter. Although she was very well disguised, the shop owner still recognized her and asked if Chan was sneaking out to play without her grandmother's knowledge. Chan felt embarrassed and hurriedly left the convenience store, with Yuan following closely behind. Chan went to put the things she had just bought into her suitcase. The suitcase, already large, became even heavier. After pulling it a few steps, the wheel broke. She happened to see Uncle Kim's trolley left by the roadside and intended to borrow it to lighten the load on her suitcase. Unfortunately, she was caught by the police. He asked Chandy what she intended to do with Uncle Kim's trolley. Chandy was caught red-handed and quickly pulled her suitcase away. Seeing Chan dragging an oversized suitcase along with rumors of mysterious disappearances of people, Yuan immediately suspected she was the serial killer. Yuan demanded to inspect the suitcase, but Chan said it was just personal belongings and didn't want to see it. Yuan then saw something that looked like human hair, further confirming her suspicions. The two sides struggled violently, causing the suitcase to burst open. Underwear and clothes flew into the air. Seeing the knife about to fall on Channy's head, Yuan panicked and pulled her towards him. It seemed like a romantic hero saving the damsel in distress, but the water trough above burst open at the right moment, spraying dirty water directly onto Channy's head. She got furious and hit him straight in the mouth with a teddy bear. After making him rearrange his suitcase and demanding laundry money, Channy threatened to call a lawyer and sue him for damaging her belongings. At this time, her grandmother called and scolded Channy profusely because she was worried about her granddaughter's weak health and wandering around in the rain and wind. Chan Di, feeling resentful, asked her grandmother if she felt heartbroken seeing her living a miserable life. Chan Di wanted to do things her own way, to travel once in her life, but her grandmother said that what she wanted most to see was her granddaughter alive, but living without doing anything or going anywhere. Was she truly living? Her grandmother admitted she was selfish. She only wanted the obedient Chan Di of the past to return, but Chan Di was cruel, telling her not to wait anymore because that girl had been dead for a long time. No matter what, Chan has to earn money to travel. On the other side, there are two people who are also broke, nightmares about asking their wives for money to take their mothers on a trip. At the 70th birthday celebration, the wife immediately flew into a rage, saying, "We haven't even finished paying off the bank loan yet. What kind of trip are you talking about?" She vented her anger on the flowers, making the nightmare truly a nightmare. He didn't dare ask anymore. He hurried to the school to pick up his child, but he made a fool of himself in front of the school gate, tripping over his ankle with his sandal and falling flat on his face. His daughter was embarrassed and refused to acknowledge him as her father, ignoring him and going home with a friend. Nightmare felt inadequate, unable to do anything for his wife and child. He went to his clueless friend's house to confide in him. Because this guy keeps coming to cause trouble, Gamo has to lock the door wherever he goes. As soon as they entered the house, they found it creaking again, and Gamo had run out of money to repair the house. The two were disheartened by their predicament, wishing a lump of money would fall on their heads. Gamo remembered Chandy's story. She said she earned 50 million to go on a trip. Just as they were talking, Chandy appeared like a ghost, startling the two of them. After a verbal exchange, Chandy revealed the reason for her visit. For a fee of 5 million VND per person, she wanted to hire these two assassins to stage a kidnapping of herself in order to extort 50 million VND from her grandmother. Although they felt a little guilty towards their grandmother, the allure of money and Chandy's manipulative words about her limited time left to live made them agree to participate. At this moment, Yuan was being complained about by the downstairs neighbor knocking on his door because of the loud banging and smashing every night. He just mumbled an apology and locked the door tightly again. Indeed, the house was in ruins, like a battlefield. Suddenly, Yuan received a phone call. The caller wanted to check on his situation, which annoyed him greatly. Yuan Trong pulled out a file about a science project called Prodigy. Besides the children's files, there was detailed information about Dr. Ha, who had been elected Scientist of the Year. Several articles reported on the explosion at the orphanage and condemned the inhumane experiment. Notably, there was also a statement from the security guard about the brutal truth in the laboratory. Yuan realized that the security guard looked very much like Uncle Kim, who had come to the counseling center today. Yuan decided to go find Uncle Kim, but here he only found flyers from the missionary group. At the same time, a fake kidnapping was being carried out at the abandoned house where the staged performance was taking place. Looking at the camera and sending a message to the woman, "Grandma, save the child. Just give them 50 million, and they'll release her." The two thugs reviewed the video they were preparing to send. Chan suddenly felt a sharp pain in her heart. Before she could even cry for help, she was overwhelmed with tears of resentment. At first, the two thugs thought she was acting, but when they couldn't wake her up, they started to panic. At home, Grandma was really worried because Chan hadn't come home, so she called former police officer Gunmo, now a private detective, and hired him to find her granddaughter's location. At this time, Gamer tried to perform CPR on Cheney, but it was all in vain. Her pupils had dilated and she had completely stopped breathing. The two assassins were extremely panicked. If they reported it to the police, no one would believe that Chan staged the robbery and then deliberately died. They would both surely be convicted of robbery and murder. In their desperate, nightmare-filled despair, they decided to kill her. At the urging of their uncle, Gamer reluctantly complied. They closed Chan's eyes, but she refused to close them. She seemed to be resenting them both. Then the two of them struggled to push the cart carrying the corpse to the garbage dump. This place was ideal because there were few people passing by, no security cameras. The landowner also ignored it, and the authorities never paid any attention. Just as the two of them were about to dispose of the corpse, a voice suddenly rang out, making them both jump out of their seats. It turned out to be the strange civil servant from inside. He was doing a field inspection of the garbage dump. According to the report from his nightmare uncle, he saw two people furtively covering themselves up, which only made him more curious. While struggling, the car skidded and sped down the slope, causing the Chan to tumble out. He turned to the nightmare general and, with lightning speed, said that it was a mannequin. But seeing the mischievous looks on their faces, Yuan was about to run down to check. The two panicked and ran after him to stop him. As a result, both of them fell face down into a puddle of dirty water. Yuan, however, had a clear view of their bodies. He recognized the mischievous girl Cheney. At this point, the two culprits sobbed and confessed. Chan went and threw up and died, crying and begging in various ways. Unexpectedly, when he turned around, the bodies were gone. Suspecting a third accomplice, Yuan immediately pulled out his phone and called the police. AP Mong rushed to stop him, and during the struggle, accidentally pressed the wrong call button. The entire confession was heard by the police on the other end of the line. A few minutes later, a police officer arrived at the scene. Yuan, in his testimony, saw the other two disposing of a girl's body, but the corpse had disappeared, so there must have been a third accomplice. Just as he finished speaking, Chan suddenly appeared, healthy as if nothing had happened. The nightmare's face was no longer distorted, and the gamer fainted because he thought he saw a ghost. A huge question mark appeared in Yuan Trong's head. Clearly, she was dead. Actually, there was a secret Yuan Trong had always kept hidden. He was a person with superpowers. The time Valai and Chandy were flying around in the air during the fight, it was Yuan Trong who used his superpowers to pin them to the wall to save Cheney's life. Then he conveniently bent the water trough back into its original position. Going back a few minutes earlier, Detective Go checked the phone's location and saw that Chandy was on Je-Do Island. Grandma couldn't believe it and went into Chandy's room to check, only to find out that she had packed her things and left sometime earlier. There was also a letter addressed to her in the drawer. At this moment, the detective called back and reported the location. Chandy had jumped back to Hizong, which was really strange, and returned to Chandy's gang. At this point, all three were taken to the police station for a chat. Instead of admitting that Vu disposed of the body, the sly, nightmare uncle steered the story to the fact that they had ambushed to catch someone illegally dumping garbage. Yuan Trong also admitted that he had misunderstood. Since it was clear that Chandy was still alive, the police had no choice but to let them go. Afterwards, the two assassins went to the hospital to visit Cheney. She recounted her strange near-death experience, saying she was sitting in a dark cave. An old woman kept calling her out. After hearing this, the two assassins came to a conclusion. Chandy just stepped 1 foot into the other world. The whole group was worried sick. If Grandma found out, they were doomed. Chandy even threatened that Grandma was a notorious troll and prankster from back in the day. The two of them would be buried alive. As for her, she had the right to be exempt from responsibility because she was Grandma's granddaughter. After questioning Chandy again, they realized she was so naive that she intended to receive tens of thousands of dollars from Grandma using her personal account. They swore they would never participate in a kidnapping scheme again. Unexpectedly, Grandma was already at the door of the room. They all froze for 5 seconds before frantically searching for a place to hide. Chan slipped into the wardrobe. But as soon as she opened her eyes, she found herself back in her teenage years. Before her was the scene of a criminal being brutally tortured. Screams echoed everywhere. In the hospital room, the vengeful duo had to face each other. With Grandma's anger, before she could even ask, the two brothers were already vying to betray their teammate. Both of them shamelessly blamed Chan, claiming she was the mastermind behind the fake kidnapping, while they were merely victims who were dragged into it. After hearing this, Grandma called Chan out to question her. Seeing that she stubbornly refused to come out, Grandma personally went to open the cupboard, but there was no sign of Tran. In the blink of an eye, she suddenly appeared. Chan went to hug her grandmother and cried, thinking that she had a problem with her mind, causing her grandmother great worry. The other two were furious, thinking she was just being childish, using a magic pass to get her granddaughter out of jail, all of which was overheard by someone inside and outside. On the other side, Uncle Kim was telling his wife, regarding the child who survived the terrible fire years ago. Uncle Kim doesn't remember anything about the immortal child, but he clearly remembers number 3972, the child he himself saved. He also recognizes that the child has grown up well and has returned to Hexong. Although he doesn't recognize his benefactor from years ago, Uncle Kim recognizes him immediately, but something's wrong. Actually, Uncle Kim's wife passed away a long time ago. The recent encounter was just an illusion created by the mysterious people to extract information from him. They started paying attention to number 3972, the person with S-level mind control abilities. Among the children at the research center that year, the boy with number 3972 was of particular interest because he had extremely strong potential. However, at that time, the boy was unable to control his terrifying power, almost causing a horrific accident for himself and everyone else. Luckily, his best friend 1730 rushed out in time to save 3972's life. In the blink of an eye, the wound on 1730's head healed because he possessed immortality. Thanks to his encouragement, 3972 was able to control his power to return the book to his friend 2972. Back to the present, Yuan wakes up startled from a nightmare. By now, everyone probably understands that he is the boy with the number 3972. Memories of the horrific fire from that year still haunt Yuan every night. Each time, his head spins, causing the furniture in the house to spin around as well. As a result, he gets complaints from the neighbors. Actually, Yuan is having a headache. He doesn't know if Cheney is the immortal friend from the past. Clearly, she died and came back to life, but in 1730 years ago, she was a male. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mrs. Chan was astonished to find that the bruises on her body had completely disappeared. The doctor was so shocked he was trembling because the ultrasound and x-ray results showed that Chandy's lungs were completely clean. Her heart valves were no longer inflamed, and her abnormally enlarged heart was gone. Now she's back to her perfect size. The doctor confirmed it was a miracle, something modern medicine had never seen before. What kind of miraculous recovery is this? Chan, who was once a sickly girl, has now officially been reborn. With a completely new body, she went home and her grandmother took out a business card and called Choi Dong-chun, the director of the Ha Wando laboratory. Meanwhile, the vengeful duo were sitting there crying. Worried about not knowing how to face Mrs. Chan, the two blamed each other, trying to figure out who was the mastermind behind the disaster. The uncle, being rude and incompetent, called her petty, her tearful face looking like something out of a horror movie, and her nose running. The naive girl, overwhelmed with anger, couldn't retort, only able to throw things around to vent her frustration. I accidentally heard a loud noise, and without thinking, I threw something that ripped through several walls. Suddenly, there were two huge holes in the room. The nightmare was that when I went home to get some water, something strange happened. My hand got stuck to the refrigerator door, and I couldn't pull it out. My wife and daughter saw me standing there hugging the refrigerator and could only sigh in exasperation. Uncle was at a loss, not understanding what was happening to him. If the refrigerator malfunctions, you call for warranty service. But if Uncle malfunctions, who should he call? The next morning, Grandma prepared a lavish meal and began interrogating her granddaughter about the kidnapping. Chan was very righteous, taking all the blame upon herself. Grandma looked at her granddaughter, who was both clueless and stubborn, and could only sigh. It turns out that it wasn't that she didn't want her granddaughter to travel, but for over 20 years she had lived in fear because Chan's health was so poor. She could only apologize for causing her worry. Her grandmother happily said this was the first time she had shown such filial piety. Now she shared the extremely good news that Cheney is now as healthy as Chow Ti. From now on, she can do whatever she wants, freely go see the Aurora Borealis, visit giant waterfalls, or go to Africa to explore, but she still has to earn the money herself because her grandmother won't give it to her. Chan's enthusiasm immediately dropped like a pair of pants falling down, because peeling onions for her grandmother until the next tangerine season wouldn't even be enough money for the trip. So her grandmother took out a passport and plane tickets that she had prepared for her. But don't celebrate too soon. Along with it comes a good deed sticker, one sticker for each good deed. Only when the sticker is completely covered will the old woman give you money, but first you have to finish all the rice. So she happily ate like a hungry ghost and then put the good deed sticker on herself. Cheney began to notice magical changes in her body. Her skin became smoother, her ears stopped ringing, The bruises disappeared, and her heart beat very strongly. The girl was confused, wondering if the recent life-or-death experience had led her to enlightenment or if it was just a lack of oxygen in her brain causing hallucinations. To check if her brain was still functioning properly, Chan immediately tried reciting the multiplication table. Just then, Yuan unexpectedly arrived to find her. As soon as they met, he bombarded her with questions. How many times had she died already? Was yesterday the first time, or had she died before? Chan started to get lost. After the incident where he ruined his suitcase, he was the one who made normal people seem strange. Yuan then asked her if she had ever heard of a prodigy. Seeing her bewildered expression, he gave up and went home. Gamer was still worried about being banned in the accusation. Chan suddenly remembered the camera was still at the abandoned house, so she assigned the task of peeling onions to the clueless guy. He ran off to dispose of the evidence with eggs. The nightmare was that the clueless guy who reported the news also panicked and ran to the abandoned house. He was complaining all the way, saying that getting involved with this group had made his life a mess. Yuan is secretly following Chan. He wants to be sure if she has the ability to revive, and if so, he needs her to die again. Suddenly, Chan turns around, making Yuan freeze in surprise. It turns out the gluttonous girl went into a shop to buy donuts. Yuan intends to drop a potted plant to test Chandy's immortality, but at the last minute he hesitated, afraid of accidentally shooting an innocent person. At that moment, Chandy spotted him. She panicked and ran away. Cheney ran straight to the abandoned house, unaware that Yuan Trong was still following closely behind. At this moment, Yuan Trong suddenly saw some homeless men holding a camera they had just picked up. He snatched it and watched the entire scene of Cheney having sex while searching. Cheney was frantically searching for her camera when suddenly the whole house shook violently and everything started collapsing, causing her to panic and run around frantically. Jia Yuan decided to take action to force her to reveal the secret. Everything was falling apart, leaving Cheney with no choice but to hold her head and wait to die. But when she opened her eyes, she found herself on a boat floating in the middle of the sea. Meanwhile, at Grandma's restaurant, diners discovered a plot hole in the historical drama on TV right in the middle of an ancient execution ground scene. A person in patient's clothes suddenly appeared. Although only their backs were visible, it was definitely Chan and no one else. On the other side, the nightmare had reached the abandoned house. He was horrified to witness the abandoned house collapsing. Suddenly, the uncle was called home by his wife to deliver goods. While saying yes and no, his hand suddenly got stuck on the steering wheel and phone, and he couldn't hang up. And his wife kept nagging him non-stop. The uncle was afraid his wife would recklessly jump back onto the roof. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, his hands were no longer stuck. He ran towards the abandoned house and witnessed someone controlling a pile of iron and stones flying around like a superhero. But he wasn't the only one who saw this scene. In the distance, there was also a scarred man. The person who knew inside was 3972. Yuan turned the whole house upside down but couldn't find Cheney. At this point, he realized that she wasn't an immortal being but someone with the ability to move through time and space. Chandy was bewildered on a strange ship when 3 burly Chinese men appeared with weapons in their hands. They were also panicked because they didn't understand where this girl came from, and fearing that Chandy would become a police officer, they decided to kill her and throw her body into the sea. At the same time, the group led by Dr. Ha found Director Choi and eliminated him. Not long before, Dr. Ha was still serving time in his cell. An old man came to the prison to see Dr. Ha and inquire about the whereabouts of the eternal child he had created. He demanded that Dr. Ha provide concrete evidence, or risk losing his last chance for amnesty. Back in the present on the strange ship, the Chinese men fired a barrage of bullets at Chandy, but in an instant, she vanished again. Chandy suddenly appeared near the abandoned house as if from thin air, leaving the nightmare uncle speechless with terror. The scarred man didn't seem surprised at all. Cheney was still bewildered, unable to believe what had just happened, but the hole in her shirt proved that the gunshot wasn't an illusion. Seeing Yuan standing there dumbfounded, she cautiously approached, intending to ask him what was wrong. He was startled and unleashed a powerful attack, sending her flying far away. Meanwhile, the scarred man returned to his lair. He told his 2 female companions about meeting 3972. It turned out that he used to hate 3972 because, ever since he gained his powers, he had monopolized all the attention of Dr. Ha, whom they called father. The whole group was confused, not knowing why 3972 had returned to Hexong, suspecting that their foster father was secretly summoning other children. So they decided not to report this but to find out for themselves. Meanwhile, Chan had just woken up from a good sleep at the dimly lit house. It turned out that a nightmare had brought her here in an unconscious state. When Chan curiously asked about the hole in the wall, Gamer honestly confessed that it was caused by just lightly tossing a can. At this point, Chan checked the holes in her shirt again. She realized that the strange things she had experienced were not near-death experiences, nor time travel, but rather instantaneous teleportation. She has acquired superpowers. On the other side of the nightmare, he's being scolded by his wife so badly he can't even wipe his face, because of the crime of delivering marigold flowers to customers and only showing up after the party was over. The sly uncle used the excuse of visiting a friend's father, but his wife immediately exposed him. She said, "You don't have any friends, so why are there so many fathers who have passed away?" It turns out the uncle had used this trick many times before. The uncle still argued that these days people are so rebellious that it's normal for a family to have two fathers. At that moment, the uncle discovered his hand was stuck to the plant pot. While he was struggling to free himself, his two accomplices appeared. Chan went straight to ask the uncle if he saw anything strange. Like a clueless person throwing a can through a wall, the two girls suddenly knew how to teleport. The uncle still acted completely normal, not at all like the two weirdos opposite him. As soon as he finished speaking, he leaned forward and then bounced back. Even more surreal than the dance moves of Michael Jack 97. At this point, Chan realized that the uncle's feet were stuck to the ground, so they've all been mutated at once. The whole group starts arguing wildly. They wonder if this is a curse of transformation caused by chemical toxins or if it's actually a superpower. Nightmare forces them to keep it a secret to protect their families. Cheney realizes this uncle is very scared, as if he's hiding something, but Nightmare absolutely refuses to admit it. It wasn't until she threatened to tell the neighbors that her uncle had become a victim of a drug that he finally blurted out the truth. The strange guy, Yuen, almost screamed at Chandy. Immediately, Chan went to confront Yuen to get to the bottom of it. She made him confess what he had done at the abandoned house. "What did you throw at me?" Hearing this, the colleague immediately thought of something extremely dark. Yuen, fearing the girl would reveal the secret, quickly pressed the button to invite the next person. Unexpectedly, Chandy had prepared a stack of appointment slips for Yuen to handle. Then followed a race against time, with hands faster than brains. One person frantically pressed the button, while the other frantically pulled out slips, giving the civil servants a good laugh. Unable to bear the heat any longer, she decided to request another assignment. At first, her superior disagreed, but seeing her fierce demeanor, he finally took pity on Yuen and assigned her to investigate the foul odor in the remote hewn village. The triumphant young man immediately put up a sign indicating he was out on assignment to escape Chandy's persistent pursuit. Seeing the suspect leave, Chandy and his two accomplices immediately got into the car and chased after him. Meanwhile, Chan's grandmother was informed by the police about the death of Director Choi. At the scene, there was a suicide note addressed to her, stating that Dr. Ha was innocent. The guilty ones were them. It turned out that before Director Choi's death, Dr. Ha had forced him to write this suicide note, and also question him about the whereabouts of the eternal child. The director had no choice but to reveal her grandmother, but they still control her body and she spontaneously ejaculated. It turned out that a terrible explosion had occurred at the Hersong City Children's Home that year. Some children took the opportunity to escape. After the fire was extinguished, the police discovered many children in the laboratory. As the person in charge of this laboratory, Dr. Ha, a specialist in cell regeneration, was immediately arrested. He has now been released from prison and established a society for the salvation of eternal life. Today, 2 police officers came here to investigate. Regarding the missing person report, the woman with the yin-yang eyes greeted them, asserting that the society was not holding anyone captive, and even willingly allowed them to go down to the basement to check. The basement is where Uncle Kim is being held. At this time, he discovered that his 2 missing friends were also being held there, submerged in some kind of liquid. Seeing the 2 policemen appear, Uncle Kim screamed for help. But they didn't hear him because in their eyes, it wasn't a real scene, but an illusion created by the woman with the yin-yang eyes. The 2 police officers left because they found no suspicious traces. However, one of them started acting strangely, sweating profusely but with a milky white color and a very peculiar sticky consistency. At the same time, Yuen Trong was sitting waiting for the bus, while the vengeful trio stopped their car right next to him, playing word games to tease him about his superpowers. Yuen Trong couldn't take it anymore and got up and left. Chan quickly snatched the handbag, then was even pushed into the car by the clueless guy. On the way, the 3 troublemakers took turns boasting about their superpowers and begging Yuen to control them. Cheney even threw a ball at his face to see if he would use his superpowers to block it. Even at this point, Yuen still pretended to be clueless, so they all stopped the car to throw him out onto the road. At that moment, a rickety police car sped up. The driver was unconscious with a strangely distorted face. The car lost control and plunged straight down the slope. They all immediately jumped out to rescue the person trapped in the car. The police chief luckily escaped death, but the driver didn't move at all. The person was so limp like rubber that Cheney and Gar-Mo screamed in terror. Both of them used all their strength to lift the car, but it wouldn't budge. Meanwhile, Yuen stood there with his arms crossed, determined not to reveal the secret. Only when he saw the fire growing bigger and bigger did he secretly use his superpowers to lift the car. The gamer mistakenly thought this was his power, but Chanda knew at a glance that he was up to something. Even so, she pretended to be serious to get him to continue. Finally, the police officer was dragged out, but Chan discovered that his legs were strangely slippery, and his body was stretched out like rubber. Luckily, he seemed to still be breathing. Meanwhile, the Nightmare Man went to the riverbank to fetch water to put out the fire, and saw a gigantic carp swimming by. After returning and splashing water to extinguish the fire, he was terrified and told the clueless chicken about the giant carp that could wink, but the clueless chicken didn't believe him at all. While they were arguing, the man's hand suddenly stuck to the clueless chicken's shoulder, and his other hand stuck to the car, and he couldn't get free. At this moment, the fire flared up again. Seeing the two people about to be roasted alive, Cheney could only beg Yuen for help. Now he decided to use his superpowers to save them, but even with all his strength, he could only pull the chicken out, while the dream creature remained stuck to the car. The uncle urged everyone to run away so he could die alone, but Cheney refused to give up and ran off somewhere. The clueless guy also risked his life to save his accomplices, but it was useless. The uncle, in despair, scolded the clueless guy, calling him the most useless person in the world, which made the clueless guy feel insulted. At that moment, the clueless guy's strength suddenly increased. He easily tore through the car's protective film, stuck it to the uncle's hands and back, then lifted him up and ran like a superhero. Before the car exploded, the guy inside managed to push it away, saving everyone from death. At this moment, Chan returned with a sickle in her hand. It turned out that her solution was to cut off her uncle's hand to save his life. Although she didn't contribute anything, she shamelessly claimed that she and Yuen had saved the two of them. Meanwhile, the private detective informed the grandmother. All the recordings from the surveillance cameras at Director Choi's villa had disappeared without a trace. He anxiously advised her to go somewhere else for a while because 4 people involved had died mysteriously. Back with the vengeful trio, the group was discussing the strange mutated police officer. The uncle suddenly thought about the reward money. Because of his service in saving people in distress, Chan happily suggested dividing the reward money equally among all 4 of them. Yuen coldly declared that he didn't want to have anything to do with the 3 of them and told them to sort out the trouble themselves. Chan left, and his accomplices were a little disappointed, but soon all 3 burst into gleeful laughter because one less person to share the reward money. Yuen pieced together the whole thing and suddenly remembered that the 3 of them had all gotten dirty in the garbage dump. While researching the drainage system, he discovered that the wastewater originated from the address of the Church of Eternal Life. Meanwhile, the vengeful trio visited the hospital to see the 2 police officers. They were told that no police officers had been brought there, but an ambulance had clearly taken them away. Nightmare hypothesized that some force, not wanting this to be exposed, had secretly withdrawn those people. They all started to panic. They were afraid that if their superpowers were revealed, they would be taken away for surgery or used as test subjects. Sure enough, the ambulance took the 2 police officers straight to the church for the salvation of eternal life. As soon as Yuen came out of the City Hall library, he ran into the scarred man. He called him directly by the number 3972 and threatened him, saying that if he dared to act here, many people would suffer. It turned out he wanted to know if he had been summoned here by Dr. Ha. This guy still worships him as his father and prides himself on being a miracle child. He also revealed that defective goods are being secretly recalled to clean up the world. Conversely, he saw through the true nature of the problem. He called both himself and Pao Ho defective goods that were exploited. After warning him, he told him never to flaunt gold in front of him again. Yuen returned to his office, hoping to live in peace. But life is not a dream. His nemesis reappeared. She revealed the story of the 2 missing police officers and asked if he knew who had kidnapped them. Yuen advised her that if she wanted peace, she should remain silent and pretend not to know anything. She shouldn't gather around and draw attention. Chan pressed him about his supernatural abilities, asking if this power had an expiration date, because if it disappeared, she feared she would truly vanish. At this point, Yuen explained that these abilities were actually side effects of a failed experiment called the Prodigy. Just as his female colleague, who was infatuated with Yuen, came to find him, Cheney seized the opportunity to force him to explain what a prodigy was. Otherwise, she would directly ask the female colleague. Yuen was startled and rushed to cover her mouth. Cheney immediately gave him a fiery slap, sending his glasses flying to the ground. The female colleague heard the noise and turned around. Luckily, Chandy managed to disappear somewhere. Seeing the bright red handprint on Yuan's face, his colleague mistakenly thought he was falling for her. At that moment, Chandy suddenly reappeared, startling Yuan. But the next second she disappeared again, and Yuan tried to subtly get rid of his colleague. It turned out that he had cleverly hidden Chandy in the ceiling, waiting for his colleague to leave. Yuan inside released the leopard Chan to fall freely. Instead of being scared, she was delighted, her eyes shining brightly. She excitedly called him master. Yuan inside coldly turned his back and walked away, leaving her to fall face down on the ground. Even so, he reassured her that there was no expiration date and she wouldn't die. He himself had almost died once, which is why he had this ability. After leaving the town hall and letting the leopard Chan go, he laughed heartily, happily running all over the streets, showing the whole world that he didn't die. Seeing her cheerful figure, Yuan involuntarily smiled, but the smile suddenly faded. When he discovered the scarred man secretly following Cheney to a deserted road, Pao Ho intended to deal with the defective Cheney, but Yuan was one step faster. To protect Cheney, he immediately called her and invited her to join the street cleaning team. Cheney was extremely excited, immediately rushing to the town hall to meet Yuan Trong and excitedly blasting the loudspeaker non-stop. She boasted to her grandmother that she had gotten a permanent job at the town hall, with a decent government salary, and even made her mentor, Yuan Trong, confirm it. Her grandmother, hearing that Chan had a government job, was just as overjoyed as her granddaughter, and immediately announced that she would close the shop to have a celebratory rice cake party. But the joy was short-lived as uninvited guests appeared, namely Dr. Ha and his accomplices. Grandma went back many years. Chu Jan was an orphaned girl with congenital hearing loss. It was Dr. Ha who took her in and gave her a hearing aid. His voice was the first warm sound she heard since she was born. On the day of the horrific explosion in the laboratory, Dr. Ha was trapped in the rubble. Just when he was in despair, his 3 loyal adopted children appeared to save him. They were Chu Jan, Hone, and Pao Hu. Knowing he would surely be captured, the doctor instructed all 3 to run far away and hide well. Dr. Ha told them to absolutely not let themselves be discovered until he found them. And so, from then on, the children carrying the shocking secret had to live in hiding, concealing their identities while waiting for their father to return. 20 long years passed, and finally Dr. Ha was released from prison and quickly found his 3 loyal children from years ago. He assigned them the task of finding the child with the eternal heart. This is the only key to finding a way to overcome the side effects these children are suffering. Back to the present, Dr. Ha goes to see the grandmother to find the eternal child. He claims his immortality project has succeeded despite sacrificing homeless and orphan children. It turns out the grandmother was the one who funded this project, but she insisted she only wanted to help the sick children. Most of the surviving children were taken in by their grandmother and given new families. But Dr. Ha didn't care about the children. She only wanted to know about the eternal child. Meanwhile, Chandy was gleefully throwing away all the medicine and the pile of heart monitoring equipment. Now she is completely healthy and doesn't need them anymore. At this time, Dr. Ha and his group are using their superpowers to manipulate and force Grandma to reveal the whereabouts of the eternal child. However, she still struggles to resist, saying that the child is dead, but the doctor knows she is lying. That year, he himself conducted the experiment, using the drug on that child countless times, and each time the boy came back to life from the brink of death. But not dying doesn't mean not feeling pain. Each time he was experimented on was a hellish experience. Witnessing his friend's extreme suffering, Boy 3972 could only cry out in helplessness. Finally, the overwhelming sorrow and anger caused his power to completely spiral out of control, resulting in a horrific explosion in the laboratory. That boy was none other than the strange guy from inside. Just now, a familiar nightmare came flooding back, causing him to cause another accident in the neighborhood. Meanwhile, Dr. Ha and his group had disappeared from Grandma's shop, and Grandma was bewildered, as if she had lost all memory of what had just happened. The staff insisted that she had been sitting alone, but she had a vague feeling. Someone has arrived here. It's true that Grandma's memory was erased by Dr. Ha's group. Dr. Ha's 3 loyal children all possess S-level superpowers. Scarface Pao Ho has gravity manipulation abilities, Chujan has brainwashing abilities, and Hone has hallucination abilities. Meanwhile, Chandy is happily stargazing and has a brilliant idea. If I could teleport, wouldn't I save a ton of money on plane tickets to go see the Aurora Borealis? Thinking this, she excitedly anticipated a free trip. Meanwhile, Nightmare was trying to be a perfect score checker. When he heard his daughter complaining about her broken music player, He confidently promised to buy her a new one as a birthday present. Unexpectedly, his daughter said, "With Dad's allowance, she'll probably only get a gift for her 40th birthday." The uncle didn't believe her and criticized the price. After looking at it, he realized his daughter had overestimated him. She wouldn't be able to afford it until she was at least 60. While pondering about the wallet, the uncle received a call from Cheney, so the three vengeful spirits gathered. Upon presenting themselves to their master, Yuan Trong, the group donned the city hall uniforms for street cleaning. In reality, they thought Yuan Trong was only pretending to be volunteers. For special training in superpowers, Yuan Trong hadn't had a chance to explain when two colleagues from the public affairs office appeared, leaving him no opportunity to clarify. Soon after, a bus full of followers of the Church of Eternal Life appeared. It turned out they would be assisting in today's street cleanup campaign. Following the mayor's special instructions, the old leader gave a speech about reclaiming the armor to make the world beautiful and clean. Remembering that the scarred man had said the exact same thing, Yuan immediately called the vengeful trio aside. Just when everyone was getting excited, he poured cold water on the idea that there was no special training. Superpowers are celebrated in movies, but in real life, people only fear and shun them as eccentrics. He warned the group that if they revealed their superpowers, they would be kidnapped and might never see their loved ones again. Actually, training is useless because each person has a completely different type of ability and conditions for activation. They can only discover their own abilities through self-study. The only way is to practice repeatedly. To find a certain pattern, he prepared a container for them to figure out on their own. If they don't find anything, no one is allowed to leave. Meanwhile, in Dr. Ha's laboratory, a specimen was dying, and he coldly ordered it destroyed like a broken item. Seeing this, Chu-Jan and Hone worried that if they didn't find the eternal child to completely cure the side effects, they themselves would be destroyed in the same way. Although Hone vaguely sensed that her adoptive father was hiding something, Chu-Jan reassured her that everything her father did had a reason, and they just needed to obediently do their job. Meanwhile, Grandma was checking the recording system with the detective. Although most of the data had been erased using magnetic fields, a machine behind the shop still recorded it. The image of Dr. Ha and his group leaving turned out that the scarred man had seen Channy that day. When he learned that she was a mutant who often went with 3972, Dr. Ha ordered her to be recalled. Just as Pow Ho was about to strike, Chandy accidentally activated her superpower and disappeared. Grandma saw this on the camera and was astonished, unable to believe her eyes. It turned out that Chandy was stargazing that day and suddenly had the idea to use teleportation to go see the Aurora Borealis. She was excited about going on a free trip. She started focusing on the Aurora Borealis and tried to activate her abilities. Unexpectedly, it worked. She thought she would fly to Norway or Finland, but instead, she landed straight in a nightclub called Aurora, a half-baked party spot, full of middle-aged men and women who knew she couldn't control her abilities yet. Chaney's biggest fear was that if she suddenly disappeared in front of her grandmother, she would be locked up in a hospital. The nightmare uncle confided that his dream was to become a world-famous superpower user so he could give his daughter expensive gifts. Gamer, on the other hand, had a ridiculously simple dream. He just wanted to find the people who had bullied him to show off how much stronger he had become. They were all busy drinking. Before training even began, Mrs. Chandy called. She wanted to ask where her granddaughter was, but because the signal was weak, Chandy couldn't hear anything, so she told the detective to track Chaney's location. At that moment, another call came in, and the person on the other end also identified themselves as a detective. Just from the way they addressed each other, Grandma confirmed that the person calling was the real detective, and the person in front of her was an imposter. At this point, the imposter revealed her true identity as a woman with hallucinatory abilities. She claimed to be Dr. Ha's daughter and bitterly criticized her grandmother for choosing to save only children without abilities because she feared that the existence of prodigies like them would expose a secret. She claimed that she had abandoned them in the burning laboratory. Grandma explained that Dr. Ha had lied to them, but the Hua family refused to believe her. She pressured her to reveal the whereabouts of the eternal child, threatening to make her suffer hell if she didn't. Responding with a resentful look, Grandma said that for the past 20 years, after losing her precious children and letting her own child bear the blame, she had already been living in hell. Back inside the container, the superpower team was having a headache. Because he hadn't figured out the pattern to activate his superpower, the nightmare complained that sometimes it stuck to his butt, sometimes to his hand randomly, for no apparent reason. The gamer suddenly remembered that it seemed to only get stronger when he cried. So the whole group ganged up on him to make him cry. The clueless guy actually shed tears, but when he tried eating a piece of wood, he didn't feel any strength, only pain that made him want to faint. Chan ran around frantically, his heart pounding like it did in the abandoned house. But it was no use. At this moment, Yuan was facing a follower of the church that claimed eternal life. In an open field, this old man was a staunch believer in the apocalypse and worshipped Pastor Pao Ho as a living god. He claimed to have witnessed miracles and that when the apocalypse came, only loyal followers like him would be saved. Before Yuan could retort, all the cars and scrap metal flew into the air. The old man relayed Pao Ho's message, "You will meet a miserable end here." As soon as he finished speaking, a car fell down, crushing the old man into a pile of mangled flesh, and immediately after, another car crashed straight down onto Yuan. Luckily, he managed to defend himself in time. At this moment, the scarred Pao Ho appeared, and a fierce battle immediately broke out. The group of assassins was still confused, their nightmare stuck to the ceiling because they were thrown up by a clueless idiot. Chan's only burning desire was to pull off a cool stunt to show off to Ontrong. As soon as she finished speaking, she actually disappeared from the truck and reappeared right in front of her master. Before he could even recover, a car fell straight onto his head. Chan, terrified, teleported back into the truck bed. In a state of psychological shock, however, while grabbing the clueless chicken by the neck, he unintentionally dragged him back to the fierce battlefield. The two of them dragged each other to Yuan's location, intending to help their master escape. Unfortunately, Chan's ability to move around was severely shaken, and she couldn't bring all three back anymore. The group had to face Scarface, who had the ability to control gravity like a superhuman. At this moment, Scarface was putting all his strength into delivering the final blow, determined to send all three to their demise. Yuan desperately tried to defend himself but was also gradually losing strength. Chan rushed to shield him with his body and took a heavy blow. The bus fell and crushed both of them. It seemed like the game was over, but Garmo managed to activate his power to stop the bus. He excitedly turned to show Chandy, only to find that the two of them had disappeared. It turned out that Chandy had activated his power, transporting him and his master to a land full of ice. Despite being severely injured, she smiled happily. Because she had fulfilled her dream of seeing the Aurora Borealis, and it was also her first time traveling far from home, Cheney could only exclaim, "The Aurora Borealis is so beautiful," before leaving Earth with a satisfied smile. While Yuan was grieving over Cheney's death, in the deserted open field, he had to face Scarface alone. Scarface immediately attacked, thinking he would easily take down this weak prey, but unexpectedly, after several moves, Gamer didn't even lose a single hair. Seeing Scarface not saying a word but clapping continuously, Gamer thought it was a code or rhythm for him to follow. So he started singing along to the rhythm of his clapping, making Scarface even more furious. Meanwhile, Detective Chun Mo tracked down Channy, finding the nightmare stuck to the ceiling. The uncle was about to introduce himself when he suddenly fell with a crash. Even so, he vehemently denied any superpowers, saying he was just performing magic tricks for the kids. As soon as he finished speaking, his hand was stuck to the floor again. At that moment, he realized something. In the Aurora region, he desperately tried to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation on Channy, but it was completely useless. Just when he was about to despair, she suddenly sprang up, perfectly healthy as if there had never been a separation. He was astonished to see Chan return from the dead. Although he had a feeling that she was the immortal child from that year, before he could ask anything, he collapsed unconscious. In the open field, a cold wind startled the dim-witted boy awake. Chan, covered in blood and gore, appeared, scaring him half to death. Meanwhile, the scarred man was in excruciating pain. Due to the side effects of his superpower, dealing with 3972 wasn't actually his mission. He only wanted to RP Yuan because of personal vendetta. As a result of abusing his power, the side effects became more severe. The girl with the cough was visibly annoyed when she found out that Scarface was causing trouble with 3972. When Scarface questioned why Hone was always so easygoing with that guy, she casually replied, "Because he's handsome." It turned out that when she was little, the girl with the cough had used hallucinations of fish swimming happily to help Yuan forget her pain. At that time, the handsome boy smiled, a smile Hone could never forget, believing it was meant only for her. Meanwhile, Chan and Gar Mo brought Master Yuan Trong home. The room was pathetically simple, which greatly puzzled Chan. When they took off Yuan Trong's shirt to treat his wounds, they were shocked to discover that he was covered in scars. Chan wiped Yuan Trong's face while heartbrokenly wondering how much suffering he had endured all this time. In his delirium, the usually cold and grumpy young man suddenly became weak, gripping Chan's hand tightly, calling out to his mother and begging her to stop. Cheney also played the role of a mother, saying that she didn't have a son as difficult as him, but still gently wiped away his tears. She comforted him, saying that even without a mother, he had grown up properly. That was good. That night, Chan went home to get some things to take with her, but was caught by her grandmother who questioned her. The girl evaded the question and then quickly slipped away. At this time, Yuan Trong had recovered from his illness. He was deeply moved to see Chandy bringing a tablecloth and chair cushions and preparing medicine for him so thoughtfully. The next day, the Super Fools trio appeared at the public petition room to offer free assistance, but their real purpose was to pester their master, Yuan Trong. However, everyone in the room was fed up with this troublesome trio, so Yuan Trong had to take them outside. Chan went to confess. They all knew he wasn't happy to see them, but they still came because they liked the master. The girl even defiantly forced the master to join her side with extremely convincing reasoning. Since he had no friends, wouldn't it be better to have them too? The master then revealed a slight smile for the first time, which stunned the rogue who was secretly following him. The master seriously warned them all about the prodigies, telling them not to lay a hand on them, not for the sake of peace, but because they would die. The master was so serious, yet the disciples were so playful, arguing with each other, leaving the master speechless. Instead of fighting, Yuan and the others had to figure out their secret mission, which was the rule for activating superpowers. Chandy discovered that her ability was activated when her heart beat fast. Unfortunately, that rarely happened because her heart was now too strong. Scaring her didn't work, and running around was useless. As for the clueless guy, he thought he only had the ability when he cried, and it had to be tears of emotion, not tears of pain. The old man then volunteered to give some valuable advice to make the clueless guy shed tears. I thought it was touching words, but unexpectedly, the old man, shooting arrows from his armor, scolded the naive and unenthusiastic young man, saying he had no passion for life, that all he knew was peeling onions all day, and that he would never grow up, that he refused to self-reflect but only complained and made excuses. What if he never had a brilliant life? The naive young man was so angry that he was furious. He squeezed the master's hand so tightly that he screamed. The old man, who was smoking, tried to intervene, but ended up getting infected himself. While the three guys were making a fuss, Chan casually walked around reading an 18+ magazine. She looked at pictures of clean girls and blushed, but her heart didn't even skip a beat. At that moment, she screamed again because she saw a cockroach. The other three also panicked and accidentally separated. While everyone else was panicking because of a swarm of wriggling cockroaches, Trong didn't see any cockroaches, only schools of fish swimming around. The girl with the sly voice appeared in his hallucination and asked him what he was doing in his song. Why didn't he join their side instead of going with those fools? Yuan tried to convince her. Dr. Ha is not their father but only treats them as test subjects. Even so, Hone remains deluded and doesn't come to her senses. In a fit of rage, she reveals a truth. The image of Yuan's mother in his dreams was actually created by her to comfort him. Seeing him constantly crying and calling for his mother, she warned him that if he continued to cling to this group of defective goods, he would sooner or later be expelled from Earth. At this moment, Yuan Trong escaped from the hallucination. Seeing Chan and his group fighting chaotically, it turned out that in their eyes, their opponent was a giant cockroach. Yuan Trong immediately jumped in to intervene, and at the same time grabbed the neck of the rogue standing outside, helping them all escape the terrifying hallucination. After regaining his composure, Yuan Trong told Chan about Hone and revealed that they, as well as in himself, were all searching for the eternal child. That was the only success among the prodigies because he possessed a heart that never stopped beating. Even after death, he could be resurrected. Because Chandy had the ability to resurrect, he suspected that the heart of his immortal friend from years ago had been transplanted into her. Seeing that Chandy didn't believe him, Yuan had to reveal a shocking secret. The person who sponsored the experiment 20 years ago was her grandmother. Chan was stunned, unable to believe her ears. She immediately ran home, looked at her grandmother with a pained expression, and directly asked about the surgery when she was 7 years old. She also confessed that she had miraculously died and come back to life. Only then did her grandmother tell her the whole truth. In that year's laboratory explosion, the immortal boy was hit on the head by a falling concrete slab. Although his immortality revived his body, his brain was severely damaged. He was left in a vegetative state. The director and his grandmother had to make a cruel decision to transfer his heart to someone else, and the recipient was none other than Chandy, because she had a congenital heart condition. After learning the cruel truth, Chaney was completely devastated. She wandered the streets like a soulless person, sobbing and constantly apologizing. She felt overwhelmed with guilt because her life was built on the suffering of her master and other poor children. Seeing her sitting and crying in the pouring rain, he felt extremely sorry for her but didn't say anything to comfort her, because he knew that any words now would be useless. The next day, Chandy had completely disappeared. Even her two close accomplices couldn't contact her. But in the evening, Chandy unexpectedly appeared at the master's door, and he immediately led her inside, intending to get her something to eat. Unfortunately, the house was empty, not even a packet of instant noodles left. So the two of them had to go out to buy food. Chan confided in her master in a bitter tone. She had always idolized her grandmother as the smartest and wisest person in the world, but now she had to face the truth that her grandmother had done cruel things. Just because he wanted her to live, even if she pretended not to know, he couldn't change the truth. Yuan comforted her, saying that it wasn't her wish, and that he couldn't control his own fate either. At that moment, Gamo brought a pile of food for Channy. She told her to eat it all. Looking at the pile of food overflowing with her grandmother's love, Channy could only collapse and sob uncontrollably. At the same time, Grandma was also tormented by guilt. She had made such a huge mistake that now her granddaughter was suffering so much. That night, Chan went home to confront her. She declared emphatically that she could not stand by her side, because Grandma had made such a serious mistake, but she could share the blame, pay the price for her sins, and ask for forgiveness. She also promised to live more diligently from now on to live the rest of her life for the owner of this heart. So, in the end, the two of them had a fight. Even so, Chan still used the excuse of being angry with her grandmother to shamelessly go and sleep at the master's house. She even claimed she was afraid he would play tricks on her, so she brought along her clueless accomplices. Faced with two shameless disciples, Yuan had no choice but to give up and only console himself. Luckily, that uncle wasn't there. Yuan didn't expect that the next day, when Yuan went to work, the trio had all gathered at his house. That afternoon, he arranged for all three of them to meet at the usual place for practice. Ji has now discovered a painful truth. His abilities only manifest when he hears hurtful and venomous words. It's true that only those who endure hardship become stronger. Uncle pretended to be naive and hid his work, but Chan quickly discovered that every time Uncle lied, he would become a walking glue bottle. In the end, the trio were left with nothing but blankets, unable to find a way to activate their abilities. Moreover, their laziness enraged their master. At this moment, Chan accidentally drank the entire cup of coffee belonging to the clueless guy. Suddenly, she felt her heart pounding and began to teleport. She flew and jumped everywhere, from mountains to the sea, from the mainland to islands, creating situations that were both funny and sad because she landed in the wrong places. Yuan wanted to test her ability to take people along, but unexpectedly Chan took him to the beach and left him there. A while later, she returned to meet him. Unfortunately, every time they ran towards each other, Chan would disappear into the distance. They ran until sunset without ever holding hands. By evening, they had to take an intercity bus home. When they arrived, they found the three of them had gathered to cook a lively meal. It turned out they had come to help him feel less lonely because he was always alone. Later, Chan went to ask her master to go buy some cakes with her. She asked about his mother because she heard him calling out for her in his delirium while pouring out his heart. He had lost his memory since the experiment. He didn't even know his own name. He only occasionally saw a shadowy figure. Chan started to feel guilty, but the master said that her life was her own decision, not anyone else's. Chan, moved, declared, ready to swear allegiance to the master. As for her life, she could only offer 10%. Yuan then advised her, don't easily let others get close to you like that, and don't be easily deceived. Because superficial kindness might leave you lonely, but in return, you won't be in danger. Because in life, you either take advantage of people or you are taken advantage of. As soon as he finished speaking, he unexpectedly plunged the needle into Channy's neck. The next second, the prodigies appeared to take her away. Not only did Yuan betray Channy, but he also revealed all of her habits, strengths, weaknesses, and details about her superpowers. In return for this betrayal, he gave up his personal file. The two guys at home started getting impatient. When they saw that Tran and his friends were taking a long time to return, the uncle went outside to answer his mother's phone call and accidentally witnessed the scene of Tran being handed over to the prodigies. Why was this the den of the heretical church? A large number of followers were present. To witness the miracle, the one who performed the act was the scarred-faced Pastor Pao Ho. He used his superpowers to make a man who was paralyzed in both legs stand up and walk towards him. Witnessing the miracle unfolding before their eyes, the entire hall erupted in cheers. Blind believers rushed to donate money to the church. To receive salvation, Detective Chun most secretly mingled with the crowd and witnessed everything. He immediately reported back to his grandmother. After hearing this, she immediately guessed that they were raising money to restart the experiment, but to do that, they still needed someone to back them up. She immediately thought of an old acquaintance. At the secret base of the Prodigy Society, the atmosphere was extremely tense, with guards preventing anyone from entering. Because Dr. Ha was carrying out a dangerous task, Even his adopted children like Chu Jiang were confined to their rooms. Inside the laboratory, Dr. Ha tried cutting Cheney's hand, and sure enough, the wound healed in an instant. After confirming her abilities, he ordered her to be bound tightly and given the maximum dose of the drug, because it didn't matter if she died. At this moment, Chan woke up in a dazed state. It took her a few seconds to realize she had been taken back to the den of the Prodigy Society. Dr. Ha coldly declared that he would retrieve her heart, because it originally belonged to another owner. In this perilous situation, Chandy took out a packet of coffee jelly from a bag and swallowed it whole. Although she wasn't sure if it actually contained coffee, luckily it took effect within seconds. Chandy continuously used teleportation, instantly causing chaos in the laboratory. When they threatened her with guns, she took another bite of a packet of coffee jelly and instantly vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, Yuan was holding the file in his hand, his heart filled with complex emotions. It turned out that he too was suffering from the side effects of his superpowers and probably didn't have much time left to live. That's why he longed to find his real family before leaving this world. The file clearly stated his real name, and most importantly, the name and a picture of his mother, whom he had no memory of. At that moment, Chan appeared out of nowhere. She angrily asked why he had done that to her. Yuan coldly admitted that he was only kind to her because of his immortal heart, and he wouldn't apologize. It turned out that the 2 packets of coffee jelly were secretly put into Channy's bag by Yuan himself before handing her over to the Prodigy Society. Even so, that didn't lessen her hatred for him. Channy planned to use teleportation to bring him to the laboratory to confront the others for her, but when she arrived, she remembered that she had forgotten to hold his hand to bring him along. Before she could correct her mistake, she was knocked unconscious by Dr. Ha. Waking up in a dazed state, Chandy found herself tied tightly to the bed. Dr. Ha used manipulative words to psychologically attack Chandy, telling her that if she sacrificed one life, countless others could be saved. He asked an extremely venomous question. Was she worth taking away someone else's opportunity? Chandy began to waver in her belief in her own worth. Then it was Chu Jan's turn to use her brainwashing ability to attack Chandy's mind. She injected into Chandy's head the thought that she should not leave to pay for her grandmother's sins. She was willing to do it for them. Constantly under psychological attack, Chandy began to show signs of giving up. While Chandy was in danger, his cowardly uncle only cared about himself. The uncle frantically ran home and told his wife and children to pack their belongings to run away. Because he had seen Chan being kidnapped, but unfortunately, because of his notorious criminal record for deceiving his wife and children, no matter how he explained, they wouldn't believe him. His wife even declared that he was the most toxic person in the world, threatening to divorce him immediately. On the other hand, his grandmother came to see Chairman Nam, but the assistant reported that he had gone abroad and it was unknown when he would return. At this moment, Detective Chun Mo called and confirmed that Chairman Nam was the one who brought Dr. Ha to prison and that he is currently at the Eternal Church. Grandma looked at the wheelchair and the pile of oxygen tanks and immediately understood everything. Meanwhile, Chicken Mo and Nightmare were having internal conflicts. Uncle insisted that the one inside was a traitor colluding with the evil church to kidnap Chaney. But Chicken Mo thought Uncle was lying. So Uncle had to use his superpowers to prove it. When Gamer realized his uncle was telling the truth, he immediately wanted to go save Chaney. But his uncle was only concerned with himself, saying that whatever happened to Chaney was just fate. Seeing how unreasonable his uncle was, Gamer decided to go save Chaney alone. His uncle tried to dissuade him and pleaded with him. Unexpectedly, these hurtful words caused him to unleash his abilities and twist his uncle's arm. Gamer admits that he is very cowardly and useless. Everyone considers him worthless. Only Chan treats him as a friend instead of a nuisance. So he won't abandon Chaney. Chicken goes straight to Yuan's house to settle things. At this moment, Chicken is in a state of rage, his superpower surging, making him unable to control his strength. Gamer grabbed Yuan Trong's shirt and lifted him up, asking, "Where is Chandy? Did you betray him and hand him over to the evil cult?" Yuan Trong immediately used a move to escape the control, followed by a fierce struggle. Yuan Trong tried to push his opponent away, while Gamer gritted his teeth and moved closer. Just as they were about to collide, both their phones rang at the same time. On the clueless side, Uncle reported that Grandma was furious and looking for him and Chan. Meanwhile, Grandma personally called Yuan Trong, requesting a meeting to discuss the matter. Yuan Trong immediately went to Chan's house to meet her. While waiting for her to prepare dinner, he curiously looked around Chan's room and found a piece of paper with wishes that were both meaningless and heartbreakingly simple. There's mountain climbing, watching the aurora borealis, going to see a magic show, getting kisses, eating an entire cake, or falling in love and living to be 30. At the laboratory, Dr. Ha continues his psychological manipulation. He reveals to Chandy that it was thanks to handing her over that Yuan had the chance to reunite with his mother. Chaney felt both sad and angry after hearing this, but he couldn't blame his master anymore. After all, who can overcome a mother's love? Chan went back to his grandmother's house. His grandmother admitted that she knew Yuan was a prodigy and apologized for what he had to endure. However, she still insisted that he tell her where his granddaughter was. Yuan Trong admitted it might be too late, but she firmly asserted that her Chan Di wouldn't easily give up like that. As Yuan Trong stepped out, Gamo jumped to her father and asked if he was going to rescue Chan Di. The uncle boldly bet that Yuan Trong would run away as fast as she could rather than help at this time. In fact, since meeting Chaney, Yuan Trong had been struggling intensely with her emotions. He remembered that the reason he wanted to find his mother was to reverse his miserable life. He had intended to not care about anyone in the world, to have nothing to do with troublesome people, but they kept barging into his life and unconditionally believed he was on their side. Even when he betrayed them, they still held out hope that he would turn around. By now, Yuan was truly moved by their unreasonable kindness. Yuan decided to be a good person, so he called his grandmother to ask her to mobilize a force, at least 200 people. Then he went to the town hall to apologize to the senior and ask for support. Because of his sincerity, the senior quickly agreed. He used foreign liquor and energy drinks to bribe an acquaintance. He obtained the blueprints of the cult's building and gave them to Yuan. Seeing Yuan smile in relief, the senior teased him, saying it was the first time he'd seen Yuan like a human being, not a machine. The guy responded in a very cheeky way, "Actually, I've been recharged." The other three burst into laughter. After getting the map, the whole group gathered to discuss their battle plan, but the timid old man insisted on calling the police to retreat safely. He thought their superpowers were just amateurish compared to the prodigies. To prove he was no pushover, Gamer immediately showed off his strength, making the old man turn pale. Yet the old man still didn't dare risk his life. Gamer looked at him with contempt and dragged his master along to rescue Channy. At this point, the old man changed his mind but made a condition that the police report had to be under his name so that he could get some glory later. So the trio quickly prepared their equipment to rescue Chaney. Meanwhile, inside the church's lair, internal conflicts had begun to arise. Dr. Ha's adopted children began to suspect something when they saw their father hiding the fact that he had captured the eternal child and locking them in a room, not letting them out. Chu Jan tried to use her superpowers on her father to extract information, but he was completely unaffected. On the contrary, he used rhetoric about faith to manipulate Chu Jan's psychology, warning her not to use her abilities on her own father. If you want to be healed, you must have absolute faith in him. Outside, more than 200 people that Grandma mobilized had gathered and surrounded the church building. They chanted slogans demanding the return of their family and calling for the cultists to pack up. In reality, this was just a diversion by Yuan Trong. While all the church's attention was focused on the protesting crowd, 3 of Yuan Trong's men quietly slipped to the back of the building and quickly found a secret entrance. The trio crawled inside through the ventilation duct and easily overpowered each guard. While Yuan was still looking for a way out, his uncle quickly opened a door, resulting in him encountering a crowd of churchgoers with unfriendly eyes. He was about to call the police to disperse the protesting crowd, but his grandmother was one step faster, with a completely legal outdoor gathering registration form. Right now, HOA receives news of an intruder. In the laboratory, Chan is shocked to see the decrepit old chairman brought to her bedside. At this point, Dr. Ha admits that her heart will be transplanted to that old man. Chan was utterly shocked to realize that she wasn't sacrificing herself to save countless people, but actually she had to die just to save that old man's life. Dr. Ha shamelessly advised her not to feel wronged, that the world was inherently unfair, and that she was nothing, so she should just die to settle the score. At this moment, Chan's desire to live suddenly flared up intensely. Why is she nothing? She is her grandmother's whole world, the only friend of the clumsy chicken, the source of excitement for her uncle and even her master. While she was pondering what she was to her master, the scalpel was about to be lowered to Channy's chest. At that moment, the lights suddenly went out and a commotion erupted. When the lights came back on, the whole group was subdued. Yuan immediately pulled Chan towards him. Seeing her master come to rescue her, she was both happy and angry. Her usually talkative mouth was now speechless. While everyone was frantically laughing at Chandy, the guards rushed in and opened fire in massive numbers. A fierce battle broke out. While Chan was still bewildered and hadn't recovered from the shock, after the henchmen were cleared out, Chan felt less angry at her master. Yuan then unexpectedly leaned down and kissed her lips, leaving her frozen in place. After the kiss, he said, "Go to a safe place." Indeed, that kiss activated her heart, causing Chan to instantly disappear. At this moment, Dr. Ha's 2 adopted children, Pao Ho and Hone, appeared with fierce eyes. While they were about to engage in a fierce battle with the enemy, Chandi had safely returned home. After a moment of ecstasy from her sweet first kiss, she was filled with determination to go to battle. She wasn't nothing, she just hadn't done anything yet. Grandma went straight to the sheriff's office to expose the truth about the male president, who was colluding with the church for the salvation of eternal life, engaging in illegal detention and biological experiments. Things that seemed buried 20 years ago are now repeating themselves exactly the same way in her son. Meanwhile, the wicked woman claims number 3972 for herself. No one is allowed to touch him. Immediately, he began to sink into hallucinations about his friend Vin Hang. Meanwhile, in reality, his body stiffened like a phone that had run out of power. Taking advantage of the opportunity, the scarred man intended to deliver the finishing blow to send all three of them to their deaths, but unfortunately, he encountered a clueless nemesis. He insisted on blocking his opponent's punch, while his mouth was playing games, making the scarred man furious and unable to attack with magic. The scarred man then switched to physical attack. His clumsy punches didn't miss at all, and he even cursed the clumsy guy, saying he was just a defective product and should know better than to pretend to be a half-baked hero. Those insults ignited the clumsy fool's rage. His strength surged with each curse. He declared that he might be a clumsy fool in the eyes of the world, but he would absolutely never stand idly by while his friends sacrificed themselves. Then he sent a loving slap that sent him to sleep on the spot. Meanwhile, Yuan's mind went into a state of red alert. The image of his close friend pleading for help flashed before his eyes, haunting him. Horrifying memories of the explosion from years ago flooded back. The image of his friend dying tragically right before his eyes shocked Yuan Trong, who relentlessly cursed and used the most venomous words to pierce Yuan Trong's heart, blaming him for everything. It was you who caused that terrible accident. It was you who killed your best friend. The fatal blow to his psyche caused Yuan to completely lose control, his rage and overwhelming grief unleashing a massive surge of energy that sent all the furniture in the room flying and spinning like a whirlwind. Just then, Chan arrived on foot. Before she could understand what was happening, Chicken Dream announced that the master had completely lost control. This must have been a complete short circuit. If it weren't for the old man sticking his hands to the floor, they would all have been swept away. Seeing the critical situation, Chan risked her life, rushing straight into the eye of the storm to fight it out. Regardless of the shards cutting into her flesh, she persevered in approaching. The moment Chan touched Yuan, he suddenly burst into tears like a child. He confessed that he really wanted to save his friend, but was powerless. Chan comforted him, not forgetting to remind him that if he didn't stop this whirlwind, the whole group would be dead. Thanks to this, Yuan finally stopped, but instead of being a hero saving the world, he told the whole group to just go. He didn't want to be a burden to them. Chan immediately gave the master a slap, forcing him to sober up. She assigned the clueless guy to carry the master, but the young man was also out of breath, and the old man lazily complained of being tired. So Chan immediately took a bite of coffee jelly and intended to make the whole group disappear. Unfortunately, the old man's foot got stuck in the floor, so he was left behind. Instead of landing safely at Yuan's house, they drifted somewhere within the church. Meanwhile, the uncle was angrily cursing the disrespectful juniors for abandoning him. At this moment, the scarred man gradually woke up. The uncle frantically tried to free his feet from the floor. Only when he confessed that he still had enough strength to carry the strange boy away was the glue curse lifted. Chan went to instruct the clueless chicken that if the door opened, it should carry the master out immediately. She would then return to save the nightmare uncle. But as soon as Chanda disappeared, the church members swarmed in. Returning to the enemy's lair, Chandy inadvertently approached Dr. Ha's secret laboratory. Inside, Chairman Nam was heartbroken at having let the child with the eternal heart slip away. To appease his anger, Dr. Ha offered a vial of serum extracted from Channy's heart. Although not as good as a real heart, it was enough to regenerate his cells and breath. Before injecting the serum, Chairman Dang Nature didn't forget to instruct his subordinates that if anything happened to him, they should wipe out everyone without exception. As soon as the injection stopped, the serum slowly seeped into his body. The male chairman immediately became several decades younger, looking like a 30-year-old man. He felt an unprecedented surge of energy, a powerful force flowing through his veins. All physical pain vanished, and even breathing felt incredibly pleasant. The arrogant old man declared that he had just personally written a great historical milestone for humanity. But no sooner had he finished boasting than his heart started racing. Dr. Ha called for emergency medication, but Chairman Nam began to suspect that the doctor had tricked him. The old man pretended to be dizzy and, in the blink of an eye, turned into a skeleton. Seeing the old man's body turn pale, his henchmen prepared to shoot and kill them all. but Chujan immediately used his superpowers to brainwash them and chase them out. Dr. Tu looked at the old man's death with tearful eyes, considering it just a failed experiment, but to cure the prodigy children, he needed a huge amount of energy from the eternal child. Chan, hiding nearby, witnessed the entire event and felt like her heart was going to jump out of her chest. Her clumsy actions caused a loud noise, attracting the Scarface. Although she managed to grab a coffee jelly to escape, she landed right in the middle of the crowded chapel. The doctor ordered the Scarface to capture Chan. Chu was worried because the side effects had spread to the Scarface's shoulder, but the old man philosophized that in life, one must know how to fight to end the pain. It's better than clinging to it and slowly dying. Chu Jan was extremely worried about her scarred brother, but Scarface flew into a rage, believing she made him look weak in front of their father. Chu Jan tried to use her abilities to help Scarface alleviate the pain, but it was completely useless. At this moment, Scarface took out a device that his father had given him specifically to counteract her abilities. It turned out that all this time, his father had never truly trusted Chujan, but had always tried to control her unpredictable abilities. Meanwhile, in the crowded chapel, Chan calmly brushed off the dust and stood up, but nothing happened. Seeing the clueless girl waving, she was about to bow her head in silence and leave. The neighboring believers recognized Cheney as the troublemaker and ganged up to mock her. So Cheney, itching to retort, started teasing them. Their naive stupidity. When donating money to the church, she declared that there was no end of the world here. Only vile experiments are taking place right under their feet. Everyone, wake up and go home. Cheney was enthusiastically preaching when suddenly the followers looked up at the sky as if they had lost their minds. It turned out that Chu Jan was using his brainwashing abilities to order them to capture the intruders and bring them to Scarface. The followers immediately surrounded Cheney like a horde of starving zombies. Just when she thought she was about to die, her body suddenly stopped in midair and flew out spectacularly. It turned out that Yuan had woken up in time and intervened to save her. He told Chan to take the clueless girl away first, while Min would stay behind to find the nightmare uncle. He begged Chan to let him save her one last time because that was his purpose in coming here. Chan went over and told him he was just putting on a show, that she would be furious. She wasn't used to being rescued, only suited to saving people. So the three of them ran for their lives from the aggressive cultists. Meanwhile, Grandma realized that the old police chief had been bribed long ago and couldn't rely on their help. Detective Chun Mo also reported unusual occurrences. The cultists guarding outside suddenly retreated inside. Seeing that she couldn't just sit and wait for help, she ordered Chun Wu to switch to Plan B. Immediately, the protesting crowd took out their prepared quorums. At this moment, the nightmare uncle was trapped in the secret basement area. To avoid being discovered, he clung to the ceiling like a gecko. Unfortunately, every time he wanted to take a step forward, he had to invent a new lie. Thanks to this gecko trick, he inadvertently witnessed firsthand the mass destruction of experimental corpses, including the shriveled body of the male chairman. Below, the workers were moving, and the giant gas cylinders and containers of chemicals turned out to be a plan to administer a drug to the entire population of the city, a supposed salvation they were touting. Right on New Year's Eve, Hone began to feel uneasy, asking Chujan if this was truly salvation, or if they should both flee from this hellish place. But Chujan had been brainwashed too badly. She insisted that only her father could protect them and urged Hone to go and carry out the assigned mission. Hearing the whole secret, the nightmare was truly terrifying. Uncle worried that his wife, children, and everyone else would be wiped out by these evil demons in the name of God. Meanwhile, Chan and his group were still frantically running away from the encirclement of the believers. Suddenly, the exhausted Chan collapsed. Luckily, Yuan returned in time to rescue him and block the door securely so they couldn't get through. But before they could breathe a sigh of relief, Scarface caught up. Knowing they couldn't retreat together, Yuan Trong ordered Chandy, quickly take the clueless guy back first. I'll stay behind alone to settle the score with Scarface. After safely escorting the clueless guy home, Cheney hurriedly found a weapon to return and support Yuan Trong. A fierce battle erupted between Yuan Trong and Scarface. After a clash of superpowers, they both lunged at each other in wrestling. When both were exhausted, Scarface asked Yuan why he couldn't hand over the eternal child. In exchange for a peaceful life, he bitterly realized that Yuan had feelings for Cheney's group. Yuan didn't shy away. He declared he would fight to the death to protect his friends. With no way out, the two mustered their last ounce of strength for a decisive blow. Meanwhile, the nightmare uncle is experiencing a real-life nightmare. When being chased by a horde of zombies, he tries to imitate a zombie from the movie, but it doesn't work. At this critical moment, Chan unexpectedly appears with a chainsaw to rescue him. She cuts down a pine tree to block the zombie's path, and then they both rush off to find Yuan. But when they arrived, All they saw was a pile of ruins and terrifying, distorted lines. Chan panicked, wanting to find his master, but the nightmare boy was now completely broken. He whimpered, wanting to flee the place. It turned out his mind was in turmoil, because the horrifying secret he had just heard was the evil church's plan to neutralize the poison throughout the entire city. Meanwhile, the church's convoy carrying medicine had set off under Hone's leadership. Inside the chapel, the air was filled with choked sobs. The parishioners surrounded Pastor Pao Ho, who lay dying after his battle with Yuan Trong. In reality, his condition wasn't due to being struck by Yuan Trong's attack, but rather a side effect of his superpowers that had spread to his heart. Chu Jian wept uncontrollably, helplessly watching his brother gasp for breath without being able to do anything to save him. Until his last breath, Scarface remained immersed in gloom, only worried that he had disappointed his father once again. Witnessing Scarface fading away due to the side effects of his superpowers, the uncle panicked, fearing he too was about to die, but there was no time to worry. Just as she finished speaking, the brainwashed cult members swarmed in. Because her uncle kept muttering, Chan swallowed a packet of coffee jelly and took him all the way home. Meanwhile, she returned to the fight with a chainsaw in hand. Chan went about boasting and trying to intimidate them. But before she knew it, the chainsaw broke. In an instant, Chandy was tackled to the ground by the whole group. At that moment, 500 gangsters suddenly appeared and rushed into a chaotic fight with the group of believers. Immediately afterwards, the grandmother also appeared with a loudspeaker emitting deafening sounds, causing everyone to suddenly stop. It turned out that the sound from the loudspeaker had freed the believers from the manipulation of brainwashing power. The grandmother and granddaughter met, feeling both happy and sad, but still not forgetting to tease each other a little. Meanwhile, Yuan found Dr. Ha and asked him why he created these prodigies. He revealed that it stemmed from a common human desire for longevity. Years ago, he used 72 children in experiments. Half of them acquired abilities, and only one child had an eternal heart. Because he wanted to create so many hearts, he planned to spread that experimental drug throughout Hexong City. Even though he knew many people would die, he insisted that the destruction was to create a new order and transform the survivors into a new humanity. Yuan, upon hearing this, wanted to kill him, but his soldiers surrounded him, unleashing a barrage of bullets. However, the bullets stopped in midair before hitting him, then turned and lodged in their own bodies. Dr. Ha also took a copper candy to the chest, and at that moment, a gas explosion engulfed both of them. Chan heard the explosion and frantically searched for Yuan. Having run out of coffee jelly, she remembered their kiss and successfully teleported. Amidst the wreckage, she checked each charred face, intending to rescue her master, but seeing that everyone was still alive, she carried them all outside so her master could call an ambulance. Unfortunately, the person they were looking for was nowhere to be seen. Chu Jian quickly cleared away the debris and found Dr. Ha underneath. At this point, he had completely stopped breathing. Chu Jian immediately injected his father with serum, hoping he would come back to life, but it was completely useless. Even so, Chu Jian still called his sister Hone and vowed to continue with the plan. Regarding the deaths of her father and brother, she didn't tell Ho Jian. She remained determined to turn the entire city into a new human testing ground. According to her father's plan, Detective Chun Mo informed her grandmother that 2 large trucks were secretly entering the city center. Chan immediately remembered her nightmare and told her grandmother that they were experimental drugs. They intended to take all the people of Hersong into custody. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, she intended to go directly to the mayor to stop the festival. However, before she could act, Chu Jian appeared. She brainwashed all of her grandmother's people, causing them to point their guns at her, including the gravedigger. She wanted Chandy to also experience the pain of losing the person closest to her in the world. Luckily, Chandy managed to get her grandmother to safety just in time. Chu Jian ordered that if Chandy appeared, they should shoot her immediately. Chan returned on the bulldozer and furiously destroyed the enemy formation. By the time the others climbed onto the vehicle, she had already disappeared. At this moment, in the city center, the Nightmare Uncle's wife and children are eagerly preparing for the parade. Just as everyone is enthusiastically rehearsing for the parade, the uncle rushes in, shouting for everyone to stop and get out of here because danger is coming. He turns to see his wife and children trying to escape, but the wife is too embarrassed to disappear into the ground because her husband dared to cause a disturbance in front of a crowd. The uncle helplessly explains about the apocalypse, but the result is that his wife threatens to erase them from their lives. Not giving up, the uncle continues to warn the Salvation Church that has a dark conspiracy. However, the mayor was blinded by the $100 million sponsorship from the church. Thanks to that money, the city was able to create the giant mascot and the spectacular fireworks display tonight. Everyone around him laughed, calling him a nightmare, always dissatisfied with life. Complete failure, the vengeful trio reunited at Cheney's house, feeling dejected. Even though the whole group was hiding, the nightmare would rather die than abandon his wife and children. Cheney was deeply regretful for not having taken a picture with his master. Just as he was about to give up, his eyes accidentally met the reward certificate hanging on the wall, which seemed to give him an invisible surge of strength. A daring idea suddenly flashed through his mind. They had to intercept the vehicle carrying the poison, certain that the evil spirits would choose the most crowded place to strike. The three of them then set out, immediately rushed to the city center square. While looking for the medicine delivery vehicle, Cheney and Garmo unexpectedly spotted the familiar figure of Yuan, thinking their master was safe and sound. Both were overjoyed and were about to rush to embrace him, but what greeted them was a brutal surge of energy. Before they could understand what was happening, Yuan coldly lifted a nearby car and threw it straight at them. In that critical moment, Gamer managed to activate his superpower, using his body as a sturdy shield for Cheney. At the same time, the Nightmare was proudly watching his daughter, Kwang De-yu, parade when suddenly a series of cars rained down from the sky. The streets immediately descended into chaos, people trampling over each other as they fled, like the end of the world. Looking into Yuan's lifeless eyes, Chan instantly realized that his master had been brainwashed by Chujan and turned into a puppet to be manipulated. Just like how Detective Chun Mo had pointed a gun at his grandmother's head before, Chan hurriedly grabbed the handheld loudspeaker, intending to awaken Yuan's reason, but he quickly grabbed Channy's neck and lifted her into the air. The clueless girl who tried to rush in to help was also knocked to the ground. She was choked and suffocated, almost dying. Chan's survival instinct kicked in. She suddenly activated her teleportation ability, instantly teleporting both herself and Yuan away. As soon as she landed, Chan grabbed all her strength and slapped him straight in the face. The schoolgirl's signature slap finally broke the spell. His dull eyes gradually regained their clarity, and he hugged her tightly, a tight embrace as a sweet apology. But the villains weren't giving up so easily. Seeing that his trump card had lost its effect, Chujan continued to unleash a large-scale brainwashing energy wave, manipulating all the police and military forces present in the central area, ordering them to surround all escape routes for Channy's group. The Nightmare quickly took his wife and child to a nearby video store to protect his daughter's innocent mind. He gently put the earphones on the little girl's ears and turned on a smooth ride. He told his wife and children to stay inside the house and absolutely not go outside. No matter what happened, she scolded him, saying that abandoning his wife and children in such a critical situation was not protecting them at all, and then she mocked him. He thought, "If the car comes flying, are you going to stop it with your boastful tongue?" This time, he affirmed that his tongue could actually do that. Before leaving, he managed to kiss his wife. His wife could only scold him, calling him an idiot. Immediately afterwards, he ran to join Chaney's group. The squad began dividing up the territory. Yuan took charge of the eastern side, while Gamer handled the other. Gamer begged someone to curse at him a few times to recharge his energy. Chan immediately cursed at him, calling him a big, stupid idiot. Immediately after that, a chaotic fight broke out. Although their opponents were just ordinary people, they were as numerous as a horde of fearless soldiers, so the four struggled to defend themselves. During the fierce battle, the clueless guy suddenly lost all his strength and was punched into a house by the roadside. He then begged the old woman to curse him a few times. Luckily, this old woman also had a sharp tongue, which boosted the clueless guy's strength to its absolute peak, allowing him to single-handedly take down dozens of police officers. Meanwhile, Uncle had a strange way of fighting. He stuck himself to a giant ball, turning it into a sticky ball, and then went around collecting people one by one. Even Channy couldn't escape. She threw the ball into the prison and brought Uncle back. By this time, they had dealt with Chujan's henchmen, but their joy was short-lived because another group appeared. The Western martial arts students and several chefs with meat cleavers in their hands. Yuan explained that if Chujan wasn't found, this would never stop. More importantly, the uncle realized the true plot of the cult. They would neutralize the poison through a midnight fireworks display. That's when everyone would be gathered, and just one explosion would be enough to destroy the entire city. There were less than 30 minutes left until that moment, so the team decided to split up. Chandy and Gar Mo went to deal with the fireworks, while the Nightmare went to find the brainwasher. Yuan stayed behind to hold off the henchmen. Very quickly, Chandy found the truck waiting for the fireworks. But at that moment, she was stunned when she saw something in the sky. The uncle also spotted Chujan standing on the roof, drunk, attacking the zombies. He immediately jumped over the wall to the other side and climbed onto the roof. As soon as she saw him, Chujan immediately tried to brainwash him. The talkative uncle started talking non-stop. Every time she tried to interrupt, he would shoot her with his armor, preventing her from concentrating on her attacks. He was about to teach her a lesson. Unexpectedly, Chu Jan launched a sneak attack, causing the uncle to fall to the ground in a very pathetic state. At this moment, Chu Jan was also completely exhausted from overusing his superpowers. When the hearing aid fell out, the henchman immediately woke up and stopped attacking. Yuan inside Chu Jan confessed to Hone that her father and brother were dead, which is why she was so frantically seeking revenge. Down below, Cheney turned around and went straight towards Yuan. He asked how the fireworks were going, but she said nothing, hugged him, stabbed him in the stomach, then placed a long kiss on his lips, saying this was a final farewell. While Yuan was still stunned, Cheney was suddenly stabbed in the back by the old follower. Yuan immediately pushed the old man away and caught Chandy. At that moment, another Chan appeared beside the uncle and the clueless girl. And she was also shocked to see Chan in Yuan's arms. It turned out that the person who was infatuated with Yuan wasn't Channy but a rogue in disguise. In her dying moments, she still wished Yuan was on her side. At that moment, the uncle saw his wife and the others suddenly look up at the sky like people who had lost their minds. Immediately afterwards, a giant hot air balloon appeared. It turned out this was how the evil cult was spreading the drug. The four knew this was something they couldn't stop. Yuan still desperately tried to push it away with his abilities, but it was useless, only making his wounds worse. Nevertheless, Cheney was determined not to give up. She told the clueless guy, "Throw me and Uncle up there. Uncle just needs to secure me to the balloon, and I'll use teleportation to take it somewhere else." Yuan was worried about Chandy and wanted to go up with her, but she told him to stay here to catch her when she fell so he could give the clueless guy his strength. Cheney left, and then criticized him, saying he looked worse when he smiled. Then the clueless guy threw the two of them up into the air like rockets. The uncle immediately clung to the crane and climbed up step by step. As soon as Chan reached the top, the uncle immediately said, "Let go," and was safely landed by the rescue team. At this point, the time until the bomb exploded was only seconds away. That extra moment was also when the bomb exploded. At that moment, Chandy successfully removed the burning balloon from the city sky. At this point, the church's sinister plan had completely failed. Those who had been controlled also woke up and joyfully welcomed the new year. Under the dazzling fireworks, only Chandy's loved ones felt a pang of pain, knowing that her journey was fraught with danger. It turns out Chandy brought the hot air balloon to a remote desert, averting a catastrophe for humanity. Ultimately, the apocalypse didn't happen as everyone feared. Peaceful life returned to Hexong City. Like Chandy's friends, although they didn't know the reason, these heroes of that day vanished from everyone's memory. So the nightmare was furious that he couldn't boast about his world-saving deeds. That day, only his daughter remembered the heroic things her father had done. But she only admired him silently without saying anything. Many days passed without any sign of Cheney. Everyone had to believe that she was gone forever. Her grandmother even had a symbolic tomb built so that her soul wouldn't wander aimlessly. During the 49-day memorial service, everyone gathered at her house to offer condolences. Unexpectedly, Chan made a surprise appearance, much to her grandmother's delight. It turned out that Chan had flown to some desert halfway around the world that day, and she had suffered for many days before finally arriving here, in ragged and dirty clothes. Yuan, upon hearing the news, rushed to meet Chandy. However, he still maintained his cold demeanor, scolding her for being late and saying how relieved he felt on days when she didn't bother him. He even forbade Chandy from getting close because she smelled too bad, but Chandy still ran to hug him. Yuan said he didn't like it, but happily let her hug him for a long time. Not long after, Yuan was reunited with his mother. Just when it seemed everything was over, in the ruined church building, Dr. Ha unexpectedly returned from the dead. Perhaps it was thanks to the blood serum injected into him that he was able to revive, and his revenge was about to begin. Season 1 of The Super Fools ends here. Please look forward to Season 2. Everyone has ambitions, dreams, and things they want to do. If you had superpowers, what would you want to do most? Let me know in the comments. If you don't have superpowers, be a normal person, strive every day to be better, and protect your loved ones. Thank you for watching the entire movie. See you again in the next clips.